Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Back to Ashes. My name is Phoenix. Before we get started with today's video, I need to bring something to your attention. For those of you that would like to skip, there are timestamps below, so you can go ahead and skip right into today's stories. The topic at hand today, I've gotten a lot of questions about why videos are now not black screen. Well, that is because YouTube has now changed their guidelines yet again. They are trying to get rid of the AI voices, all the black screen videos, because those use AI voices, whether you can hear it or not, they can. And people like myself who narrate, I have a good ear for an AI voice. So, because this is a sleep channel, I have black screen. That way you get the peaceful sleep that you deserve. Basically, narrators are low form content creators. We're not up there with Mr. Beast and review channels, have you? I have started putting some sort of background into the video, whether it be a rainy window, a blowing tree, the ocean, whatever the case may be. I've started putting that in the background. That way there's something on the screen. I don't have it full blown lit. I do have it dimly lit. That way it doesn't bother you. And I would like to apologize for that. But in order for my channel not to get demonetized or my channel getting a strike, I have to do something that appeases YouTube's guidelines. They want us now to create content that is engaging. I'm still allowed to narrate because it's original content. They do kind of still say that, narrating is someone else's work and I'm reusing content, whatever the case may be. But as long as there's something on the screen and I'm talking, it's fine. My channel was actually already demonetized, but quickly remonetized a couple of days ago because I had that background up. So if this is disturbing to some, I'm so sorry. The only thing I can suggest to do is maybe turn down your brightness or flipping your phone over. I'm really, really sorry, but this channel does help me financially and it helps you to get the vocal melatonin that you all love from this channel. There it is. If you have any more questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them, but I wanted to go ahead and bring it to light. I was going to make this its own separate video, but not everyone is going to watch that one because it would be rather short. Oh, and just because other channels aren't doing it that do sleep videos doesn't mean that they're not being affected or anything of the sort. They may get affected, they may not. I don't know. YouTube is becoming very weird, as we all know. I've already gotten demonetized and remonetized, so I'm doing what I can to save my own butt. So let's get into the reason that you're here. First, I'd like to thank the elite members. Thank you so much for continuing to support the channel. My love and thanks goes far beyond the moon. With that being said, it is now time to go back to ashes. For once we arise from the ashes, we are a bigger, brighter, stronger, and a happier person every day. Sit back, relax, kick back, grab your snacks, or tuck in and get warm, and prepare for your dose of vocal melatonin entitled True Stalker Stories. Right after this intro, there will be an ad. Right after the first story, there will be an ad. And after that, there will be no more ads within this video. Some days stretch like ghosts, long and empty, and the only thing you can do to fill them is dig through other people's horror. That's what I was doing. Reading strangers' terrifying tales on my phone, chasing that sick thrill in the pit of my stomach. Maybe enough time had passed. Maybe it was my turn to purge something. Maybe I could finally tell my own story. The one I've kept buried like a body beneath the floorboards of my memory. It started innocently enough. I had a friend. Let's call him Adam. We bonded over weird shit. The paranormal, conspiracy theories, hauntings, dreams that felt too real. I was the one who nudged him toward the occult. A casual conversation, a shared documentary, a few books I lent him. I thought it would amuse him, give him a hobby, but I lit a match I couldn't snuff out. It consumed him fast. He spiraled headfirst into it. Rituals, demonology, sigils, Egyptian mythos, texts that I swear felt wrong, just a touch. At first, it was kind of annoying. Every conversation turned back to hieroglyphics and ancient gods. He cut you off mid-sentence to connect something mundane to the arcane. I chalked it up to obsession, a phase. Some people talk about nothing but their breakups, their cats, their gym routines, but this was different. He began to unravel. He told me he was the reincarnation of Osiris. Said he saw symbols etched into the air like glowing scars. At first, I thought it was a joke. He wasn't laughing. He'd call me late at night to talk about entities in his room. Not dreams, not visions, walking hallucinations, whispering to him, teaching him things. They had names, he said. I still remember one. Threxel. Said it hovered near his ceiling and corrected him when he prayed wrong. I begged him to stop. I told him to get help, take a break, detox from whatever the hell this was. But the real descent started when he began smoking DMT. Not casually, ritually, constantly. It wasn't a journey for him. It became a lifestyle. He would disappear from this world 30, 40 times a day, and he came back a little less human each time. His eyes went glassy. His skin took a grayish cast like old wax. He talked about them constantly. He said that DMT let him see the architecture behind reality. That's a phrase that still haunts me. I didn't abandon him. I should have, but he didn't have any friends. His family avoided him. I think I was the only person left who still saw the man and not the monster growing underneath his skin. I reached out to his sister, half desperate, half ashamed to be involving someone I didn't know. I told her he was slipping. I told her he wasn't safe. I don't know if she believed me. She was 6 years younger than us and lived far away. Then came the park. My boyfriend convinced me to go. He said I was overreacting. I didn't want to. I was exhausted. But I gave in. It was a mistake. I met Adam at a local trail, this wooded loop near a lake where we used to hang out. He looked wrong. His pupils were like pinholes. He wore these weird necklaces of bones, had a Bible in one hand and a hunting knife in the other. He said it was a tool of purification. I laughed it off nervously. My boyfriend did too. But Adam wasn't joking. He started mock stabbing himself with it, near his chest, his temples, talking the whole time about banishing the shadow parasites. His smile never reached his eyes. There was a coldness behind them that froze me to my core. I wanted to turn around, but we were deep in the trail by then. We had to walk all the way back to the parking lot, trapped in conversation, trapped with him. I gave my boyfriend the look, the silent plea to get away. But he just said, "Let's grab food after this." Ugh, I could have screamed. So we got in the car. I drove. My boyfriend in the passenger seat, Adam in the back, too close, too quiet. Then I heard the belt buckle, that metallic clink, then the wet, rhythmic sound. I didn't want to believe it. I peeked in the rearview mirror and almost vomited. He was pants down, bare-assed, violently masturbating in my back seat, eyes closed, whispering what I swear were incantations. I froze. couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. I remembered the knife in his pocket. What if he caught me looking? What if he wanted me to react? What if this was part of some twisted ritual? My boyfriend didn't notice. I don't know how, or maybe he did and just shut down. We got to the restaurant. My boyfriend ran inside. I was left alone with him. Adam didn't move, didn't speak. I pretended to be on my phone, but watched him from the corner of my eye. He was smiling, just smiling, like we were sharing a joke. When we finally dropped him off at his car, he didn't get out, just sat there. I asked him, politely at first, to leave. He just stared. Then he got out, walking around to the passenger side, and pulled something out of his bag. A gun. He didn't aim it, just held it, looked at it, then looked at me. His eyes brimmed with tears. He was shaking. I got out of the car. I don't know why. Stood 3 feet from him, close enough to see the loaded chamber. All I could say, over and over, "What are you doing?" He never answered, just turned, got in his car, and drove away. I blocked him everywhere, told my boyfriend he was never to speak to me again, told his sister he had a gun. She said she'd handle it. Maybe she tried, maybe she didn't. Maybe it was already too late. Months passed. Then one night my phone rang. Unknown number. 11:07 p.m. I answered. The man on the other end said he was a detective from Gallatin, Tennessee. My heart felt like it was being strangled. Adam had stabbed someone to death on Halloween. I don't know the details. What I found in the papers was vague. The victim was a roommate, maybe a girlfriend, maybe both. They said it was frenzied. They said he used a knife. That night, after the call, I sat in the dark for hours. I couldn't move, couldn't sleep. The weight of what almost happened crushed me. The car, the gun, the silence. His bare skin on my seat, the knife against his own chest, the cold logic of madness. He could have killed me. He could have killed us both. He was practicing, and I had front row seats to the dress rehearsal. I still don't tell this story often. It crawls. It lingers. It doesn't fill over. Sometimes, late at night, I'll dream of him again, standing in that forest holding the knife to his chest, eyes full of gods and murder. He always looks relieved, like he's finally figured out how to finish the ritual. And then he turns towards me, smiling. The summer after I turned 18, time became a leech, swollen and sluggish, draining me in the gray limbo between high school and whatever was supposed to come next. I was raw, then soft, unformed, my edges fraying under the weight of indecision. University was meant to be my escape, but bureaucracy had other plans. Missed emails, lost forms, a deferral that left me stranded in a town that felt like it was rotting from the inside out. I needed work, something to fill the void, but the job center had already written me off. Unemployable, they called me, their voices flat as the fluorescent lights above their desks. Too quiet, too timid, a ghost in human skin. Their solution was a mandatory interview skills group. A grim little experiment designed to sand down the unhireable into something palatable. It was held in a government building that reeked of mildew and despair, its walls stained yellow, its carpets curling at the edges like dead leaves. The air was thick, oppressive, as if the room itself resented our presence. The chairs were a mismatched jumble, scavenged from some forgotten storage closet. And the people, they were all wrong. All men, all older. Their faces were carved with lines of resentment, their eyes dull or too sharp, like knives left out in the rain. The youngest, aside from me, was in his 50s, his hands trembling as he clutched a styrofoam cup of coffee that had long gone cold. And then there was John. He announced himself on the first day, his voice slicing through the instructor's timid introduction like a blade. "I don't know why the hell I'm here," he barked, leaning back in his chair, arms crossed, his bulk filling the space like a storm cloud. "I'm retiring soon. Nobody hires a man with a record." The room froze, the air tightening around us. The instructor, a mousy woman with glasses too big for her face, stammered something placating, but John wasn't done. He turned to the man beside him, a wiry figure who shrank under his gaze, and grinned, a slow, predatory thing. "It was my bitch of an ex-wife. Said I beat her. Not a damn bruise on her. But the judge locked me up. 10 years. Can you believe that?" His words hung there, heavy, obscene. I kept my eyes on the table, tracing the scratches in its surface, but I felt his gaze slide over me, lingering like a spider's thread. 10 years. No bruises. I wasn't naive. I'd binged enough late-night documentaries to know that kind of sentence didn't come from a misunderstanding. John wasn't just lying. He was concealing something far uglier, something that pulsed beneath his skin like a second heartbeat. I decided then to make myself invisible, speak only when forced, nod politely, pass the paperwork with steady hands, never give him a reason to notice me. And for a while, it worked. He didn't seem to care about me. Not really. But men like John, they don't need a reason. They watch, they wait, they collect. The course was split into two halves, divided by a lunch break that felt like a reprieve from a sentence. While the others shuffled off to a pub down the street, their laughter coarse and hollow, I escaped to the library, a sanctuary of quiet shelves and soft light, where the world felt less like a trap. I'd sit in a corner, hidden by a stack of books, and lose myself in pages that smelt of ink and time. No one asked where I went. No one cared. My path never crossed theirs. My shadow never fell in their sight lines. It was safe. It was mine. Until it wasn't. One day, I broke the routine. I ran into an old friend during the break, someone from a life that felt distant now, and we spent the hour catching up over coffee in a crowded cafe. It was reckless, I suppose, but it felt like a lifeline, a reminder that I wasn't just a ghost drifting through a decaying town. Later, I stopped by the library to return a book, my guard down, my steps lighter than they'd been in weeks. The librarian, a young man with kind eyes and a lopsided smile, struck up a conversation. We bonded over a sci-fi series we both loved, trading theories about the upcoming film, our laughter soft but genuine. For the first time in months, I felt human. Then I saw it. His face changed. His smile faltered. His eyes flicked to something just behind me. The air grew heavy. like a storm rolling in. Before I could turn, I felt them. Hands, large, rough, pressing into my shoulders with a familiarity that made my stomach lurch. I gasped, wrenching myself free, stumbling backwards as I spun to face him. John. He stood there, too close, his grin wide and wrong, like a mask stretched over something hungry. "I knew I'd find you here," he said, his voice bright, almost jovial. "You practically live in this place, don't you?" He laughed, but it was a sound that crawled, slithering into the cracks of my composure. My pulse hammered in my ears. He wasn't supposed to know I came here. He wasn't supposed to be here at all. I'd left him at the training building, half an hour away, surrounded by his cronies, their voices fading as I slipped out the door. There was no way he could have known where I went. Not unless he'd been watching me. Not unless he'd followed me, silent and deliberate, long before I ever sensed him. The librarian's voice cut through the haze, low and steady. "Do you know him?" I shook my head, my throat tight. "He's from a course I'm in. That's all." The librarian straightened, his gaze hardening as he turned to John. "Sir, please leave her alone." John chuckled, raising his hands in mock surrender, but his eyes never left me. "We're friends," he said, louder now, performative. "Just catching up. Nothing wrong with that, right?" He leaned closer, his breath sour, his presence a weight that pressed against my chest. The librarian didn't back down. "Harassment isn't tolerated here. You need to leave." John's smile didn't waver, but something flickered in his eyes. Something dark. Something that promised retribution. He backed away, his steps slow and deliberate, and paused at the glass doors. He didn't leave. He stood there, just outside, his silhouette framed against the fading daylight, watching. The librarian turned to me, his voice barely above a whisper. "Stay until my break. I'll walk you to your bus stop." But his break was hours away, and I had somewhere to be. A flimsy excuse, but I couldn't stay trapped in that library, not with John's shadow looming just beyond the glass. I promised to check in next time, thanked him, and stepped outside, my heart pounding like a trapped bird. John was waiting. He fell into step beside me, seamless, inevitable, like a predator matching its prey's stride. "Geez, what was that guy's problem?" he said, his tone light, nudging my arm as if we shared a secret. I didn't answer, my eyes fixed on the pavement, counting cracks to keep myself grounded. He laughed again, but it was sharper now, a blade hidden in velvet. Then his hand closed around my wrist, sudden and tight, his fingers digging into my skin. "I know a closer bus stop," he said, his voice low, almost intimate. "I'm not taking the same bus as you," I managed, my voice thin, barely audible. "Oh, you are," he said, pulling me closer. "We both need the 47. I live near the end of the route. You'd love it there. Quiet, peaceful, just you and me." His grip tightened as I tried to pull away, his strength a quiet threat, a promise of what he'd do if I resisted too hard. I didn't want to walk through alleys with him. I didn't want to find out how far he'd go. So I nodded, my voice gone, and let him lead me to the stop. For a moment, as we approached, he kept walking, his stride confident, and I thought, well, hoped he was leaving. I exhaled, my shoulders loosening. Then he stopped, turned. His eyes locked onto mine, unblinking like a snake's. You coming? I thought we were grabbing a coffee. No, I said, the word sharp, final. But you said I didn't. He paused, his head tilting slightly, studying me. Then that smile again, slow and sickening. Well, maybe not out loud, but I can tell you wanted to. He stepped closer, his shadow swallowing mine. You don't even have to drink coffee. We could go to my place. My daughter's there, but she won't mind. She's about your age. Might be sprawled out on the couch, half dressed, but she doesn't care who sees. My skin crawled, 1,000 invisible insects skittering across it. I'm 18, I said, louder now, loud enough for the strangers at the stop to hear. And I'm not going anywhere with you. Their heads turned, eyes flicking towards us, but their faces were blank, indifferent. John laughed, brushing it off, his hand grazing my arm. You're not 18. You're at least 29. I can tell. He winked, like it was a game, like my fear was just part of the fun. The bus screeched to a stop, and I bolted for it, my legs unsteady, my breath ragged. He followed. Of course he did, shoving past others to slide into the seat beside me, his body a wall that pinned me against the window. His thigh pressed into mine, deliberate, immovable, his arm brushing mine with every sway of the bus. Just come for a bit, he whispered, his voice a serpent's hiss. You'll like it. His hand rested on my arm, heavy, possessive, his fingers tracing lazy circles that burned like acid. The other passengers saw. Their eyes darted towards us, then away, their silence louder than any scream. No one spoke. No one moved. I was alone, trapped in a cage of flesh and glass, his breath hot against my car, his breath hot against my ear, his presence a suffocating weight. When I finally got home, I locked the door, checked it twice, 3 times, and sank to the floor, my hands shaking as I typed a desperate email to the instructor. I poured it all out. John, the library, the bus, the way his eyes followed me like a hunter's. I begged to be moved to another group, to be anywhere but near him. I hit send and waited, my heart a drumbeat in the dark. A week passed before she replied. A single line, cold and dismissive. You may leave the program early if you prefer. As if I were the problem. As if I were the one who didn't belong. I never went back. But he didn't stop. I saw him after that, his silhouette flickering at the edges of my life, on a street corner, outside the shop, in the crowd at a bus stop. He never looked at me, never acknowledged me, but I knew he saw me. I felt it, a prickle at the back of my neck, a weight in the air. He was still watching, still waiting, his presence a predator's, endless and unyielding. I don't go to the library anymore. I don't take the 47. I check the locks every night, my fingers trembling, my breath shallow. But I know he's out there, somewhere, just beyond the glass, around a corner, his smile waiting to find me again. And sometimes, in the quiet of the night, I hear his voice, soft and sinister, whispering through the cracks of my dreams, "You'll like it." The city of Los Angeles hums with a pulse that feels alive, but beneath its golden glow lies a shadow that clings to you, unnoticed until it's too late. I learned this the hard way during my first year away from home, an 18-year-old freshman chasing the thrill of independence in a sprawling metropolis. What began as a fleeting act of kindness unraveled into a nightmare that still haunts my every step, a year-long descent into dread that I'm only now able to put into words. This is no tale of a lovesick creep or a predictable predator. This is the story of the man who saw through me, who hunted me across a city of millions, and who left me questioning whether I'll ever feel safe again. I'd come from the East Coast, trading harsh winters for LA's endless summer, eager to taste adulthood. COVID had shuttered the dorms and turned classes virtual, but I moved anyway, renting a small apartment near campus in a neighborhood alive with restaurants, coffee shops, and boutiques. 8 buildings down lived Felix, a friend from summer camp years ago, now chasing music dreams in the city. Another camp friend, Tommy, attended a college a 20-minute Uber ride away. The three of us had been tight back in the day, and in LA, Tommy and I grew especially close, trading visits and exploring the city together. Felix's schedule clashed with ours. His weekends were packed with gigs while we roamed free. But when our paths crossed, we'd hung out with his crew, drinking in the electric chaos of our new home. LA is intoxicating. Its streets bathed in warm light, its culture a kaleidoscope of sound and color. But the city has a cruel edge. Homelessness is everywhere, a constant reminder of society's indifference. People avert their eyes from the encampments, sidestepping this suffering as if it's contagious. I hated that callousness, the way pedestrians clutch their phones like shields, pretending not to see human wreckage discarded on the sidewalks. That disgust led me to my first mistake. It was early fall, my first week in the city. I was crossing a busy boulevard, the air crisp and the streets buzzing, when I saw him, a man in a wheelchair, one wheel lodged in a deep pothole. He thrashed silently, his body jerking in frantic, unnatural spasms. No one stopped. People streamed past, heads down as if he were a ghost. I was too far to reach him before the light changed, but I assumed someone closer would help. They didn't. Anger surged through me, and I shouted at the crowd ahead, earning a middle finger in return. I approached him, heart pounding, and asked if he needed help. He didn't speak, just nodded, his head buried in the folds of a tattered tuxedo jacket, its fabric oddly fine despite the grime. His hair was a wild tangle of black and gray, frizzing like static. I freed his will and pushed him across the street, my hands trembling from the effort and the strangeness of it all. As I maneuvered him onto the sidewalk, he twisted abruptly, his face inches from mine. I recoiled, not just from the proximity in a pandemic, but from him. His skin was leathery, etched with sun-worn wrinkles like a mask stretched too tight over bone. His eyes were sunken pits, hollow and unseeing, yet they bored into me with an intensity that felt wrong, like he wasn't looking at me but through me into some dark corner of my soul. "Get away," he rasped, his voice a guttural snarl that barely sounded human. I muttered something dismissive and walked off, my skin prickling, assuming I'd never see him again in a city of 4 million. I was wrong. Days later, I was heading to the grocery store, weaving through the crowded sidewalks of the commercial district. Ahead, a figure moved oddly, not limping, but lurching, as if his body couldn't decide how to function. As I drew closer, my stomach twisted. It was him. No wheelchair, just those blank eyes and that frizzy hair, now unmistakable. He wore the same tuxedo jacket, its incongruous elegance clashing with his filthy wife beater and torn pants. Something about him screamed danger, a gut instinct I couldn't shake. I told myself he was likely mentally ill, that I shouldn't judge, but my body screamed to flee. I quickened my pace, hoping to slip past unnoticed. As I did, he stopped dead, forcing me to pause for a split second. His head swiveled toward me, those empty eyes locking onto mine. My spine iced over. I forced a weak smile and kept moving, my heart hammering. After that, he was everywhere, on street corners, outside coffee shops, lingering in alleys. Every time he turned toward me, his gaze a weight that pressed against my chest. I learned to ignore it, to let his presence blur into the city's noise, but it never stopped feeling like a violation. Then, abruptly, he vanished. Weeks passed without a sighting, and I dared to hope he was gone for good. I was naive. Months later, in the spring, Tommy and I were headed to a liquor store near my apartment, planning to grab drinks before hitting Felix's place. As we approached, I spotted him, the tall man in the tuxedo jacket, standing at an intersection just past the store. My heart sank, but I brushed it off. I was with Tommy, and I'd grown used to ignoring him. I didn't bother explaining to Tommy, who was chatting obliviously. We left the store, turning left toward a crosswalk, deliberately away from where I'd seen the man. But there he was, waiting at the crosswalk, his skeletal frame looming under the streetlight. Tommy's voice faltered as he noticed my expression. He glanced at the man, then back at me, his eyes wide. The man's head tilted towards us, his gaze pinning me in place. The light changed, and we hurried across. Tommy's words, a distant hum, as dread coiled in my gut. "You good?" Tommy asked later. I spilled everything. How I'd seen this man everywhere, how he always stared, how he seemed to know me. Tommy laughed it off, teasing me for being paranoid. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. At Felix's, we drank heavily, the alcohol dulling my nerves, but not the nagging sense of being watched. By 2 a.m., Tommy had Ubered home and Felix's friends were crashing. I was buzzed, but for the first time, I was terrified to walk the 2-minute stretch to my apartment. I'd never seen the man in the residential blocks, only the commercial ones. But that logic felt flimsy now. The streets were desolate, the city's hum reduced to a low, sinister drone. I hurried past the first cross street, my footsteps echoing too loudly. As I neared the second intersection, a figure sat on the curb at the diagonal corner, head bowed. My pulse spiked, but I told myself it was just a drunk student. Then I saw the white streaks in his hair, the glint of that cursed tuxedo jacket. Tunnel vision hit, my drunken haze amplifying the horror. It was him. I froze, my gut screaming to run back to Felix's. His head lifted, those hollow eyes finding mine across the empty street. They weren't eyes. They were voids, swallowing the light around them. My breath caught raw and ragged. "I've been waiting for you," he rasped, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. He unfolded his bony frame, rising with an unnatural grace that made my skin crawl. In his dirt-crusted hand, a syringe gleamed under the orange streetlight, its needle sharp and hungry. "You helped me once," he said, stepping forward, his lips twisting into a grin that wasn't human. "It's only right I return the favor." My pulse thundered. My apartment just 200 feet away. Could I outrun him? But if he knew where I lived, if he'd follow me this far, what then? My thoughts fractured, panic clawing at my chest. I glanced down a side street, considering a detour, anything to lose him. His grip tightened on the syringe, knuckles whitening, and I braced to bolt. Then, footsteps. 2 drunk guys stumbling toward the intersection from the opposite side. They noticed him, their laughter dying as they whispered to each other, eyes darting between us. He noticed them too, his eyes flickering, but it never left me. "Hey, you guys!" I shouted, waving them over. They caught on, yelling back and quickening their pace, passing him as we moved away from the intersection. One asked if I was okay, and I babbled about the man, knowing they'd forget by morning. We reached a parallel street, and they peeled off to their building, leaving me all alone again. It was nearing 3 a.m., and exhaustion clawed at me. I decided to sprint home from another route, avoiding the intersection entirely. At my building's door, I couldn't resist looking back. The intersection was empty. He was gone. Inside, I locked the door and watched the glass wall as I waited for the elevator, half expecting his face to press against it. Only when the doors closed did I exhale, trembling. I never told my parents. They'd have dragged me home if they knew. For days, I holed up in my apartment, avoiding the streets. Eventually, I forced myself out for coffee, and he wasn't there. Weeks passed, then months. Winter break came and went, and still no sign of him. I began to believe he'd moved on, that his goal was to scare me, and he'd succeeded. Another mistake. Late spring, just before summer break, Tommy and I were hanging out at his apartment, a rare sanctuary far from my haunted neighborhood. I told him about that night by then, and he finally believed me, his skepticism replaced by unease. We decided to hit a 24-hour donut shop a few blocks away, the night air cool and quiet. The shop was empty, save for 2 employees, and we grabbed our order quickly. As we stepped outside, Tommy turned, and his face drained of color. Tommy never scared easily, so his dread hit me like a punch. I turned, and my knees buckled. There he was, standing under the dim glow of the donut shop sign. Same flip-flops, same wife beater, same torn pants hiked to his chest, same tuxedo jacket. But his eyes, those empty, furious eyes, locked onto mine with a precision that felt surgical. Not us, me. Tommy and I stood frozen, the air thick with something malevolent. I mouthed, "Run," and we bolted, sprinting back to Tommy's building. I glanced back as he fumbled with his keycard, catching the man's uneven gait as he lopped towards us, faster than he should have been. The door clicked open, and we slammed it shut, the lock engaging as we raced up the stairs. In Tommy's apartment, we gasped for air, his disbelief mirroring my terror. How had he found me? 20 miles from my neighborhood, at a random donut shop in the dead of the night. The level of surveillance it implied made my stomach turn. Tommy left LA the next day, rattled but safe. I stayed another week, trapped in my apartment, finals and packing keeping me inside. I never saw him again, but the fear lingered. I don't know what he wanted, why he hunted me for months, or how he tracked me across the city. I regret helping him that first day, a bitter truth that shames me. When I return to LA in the fall, I'll be in the dorms, as will Tommy. But that man found me 20 miles away. What's to stop him from finding me again? Just a few hundred feet from my old apartment. I can't call the police. He never broke a law, not technically. I won't tell my parents. They never let me stay. All I can do is wait, wondering what the fall will bring, and pray that the shadow that stalked me has finally moved on. But deep down, I know better. In the quiet moments, when the city's hum fades, I feel his eyes on me still, waiting, watching, and biding their time. I used to think my life was mine, a simple, unremarkable existence, stitched together with small joys and quiet routines. A husband, George, whose laughter filled the gaps in my heart. A daughter, Lucy, whose tiny hand in mine made the world feel whole. A dog, Rover, whose soft snores were the heartbeat of our home. We were a family, framed in the soft glow of normalcy. But normal is a lie. The world tells you when it's waiting to strike. And when it does, it doesn't just unravel your life. It claws it apart, thread by blood-soaked thread, until you're left staring at something that grins back with too many teeth. It started with a photo, not one I took, but one I stumbled across on a stranger's Instagram. Some influencer's sun-drenched post from a European shore. Her red bikini screamed for attention, but it was the background that sank its hooks into me. Blurred, almost imperceptible, were two fingers walking arm in arm down a cobbled street. George and Sheila, my husband and his mother, smiling, alive, unaged, as if the last 10 years, years of grief, of questions, of a hollowed-out life, had never happened. My stomach lurched, like I'd swallowed a blade. They'd vanished from the world a decade ago, leaving nothing but echoes and a dead dog. And now, there they were, mocking me through a stranger's lens. Let me take you back to the before, to the dream that became a nightmare. We just moved into our new home, a modest 2-bedroom with creaky floors and a porch that caught the sunrise like a greedy child hoarding light. Lucy, barely 5, twirled through the empty rooms, her laughter chasing away the ghosts of unpacked boxes. She begged for a dog, and I caved. How could I not? Rover came to us, shaggy and soulful, a rescue with eyes that seemed to know you before you spoke. He followed Lucy everywhere, a shadow with a wagging tail. We were complete, or so I thought. The first crack appeared with the pie. A neighbor, a woman with a smile stretched too tight, like skin over a drum, brought it over. Her eyes didn't blink enough, and her voice had a lilt that felt rehearsed. like she was reading from a script only she could see. I laughed it off, blamed the unease on too many late-night horror movies. But when she left, something lingered, a greasy film on my skin, a weight in the air that made the house feel too small. The neighborhood was picture perfect, a postcard of suburban bliss. We played our part, hosted a barbecue, let Rover sniff the neighbors' hands, smiled at their small talk. Everyone was kind, predictable, except David. He lived across the street, a man in his late 60s, with a lawn so pristine it looked like it had been ironed. He wore a watch, an old-fashioned thing with a leather strap, and he moved with a deliberate calm of someone who knows exactly what they're hiding. He waved when he had to, but his eyes never lingered. Harmless, I told myself, just a lonely old man. Then Sheila arrived. George's mother was a storm in human form, her presence like a low hum that set your teeth on edge. She had eyes that saw too much, like she'd glimpsed the world's underbelly and couldn't unsee it. The moment she spotted David on his porch, her hand clamped onto my wrist, her nails biting into my skin. "He's watching you," she whispered, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. I glanced over. David was watering his roses, his movement slow and methodical. "Sheila," I said, forcing a smile, "he's just gardening. It's what old men do." Her grip tightened. "You don't see it," she hissed, "but I do." I wanted to laugh, to shake her off, but something in my gut twisted, a cold, slithering thing that wouldn't let me dismiss her entirely. That evening, during a walk with Sheila and Lucy, I saw David again. He was across the street, walking parallel to us, his head bowed, his steps matching ours. Sheila's nails dug deeper. "He's following us," she said, her voice low and venomous. "He's just walking," I said, but my words felt hollow. When we turned back toward home, so did he. When we paused, he paused. And when we reached our porch, Rover pressed himself against the window, his hackles raised, a growl rumbling deep in his throat. Sheila stayed longer than planned. She refused to leave after she claimed David had come to the house while I was at work. She said she saw him rifling through our mailbox, his long fingers sifting through our letters like a thief searching for secrets. She said he pressed his face to the front window, his breath fogging the glass, until Rover's barking sent him scurrying back to his side of the street. I didn't want to believe her, but the way Rover's eyes followed David's house, the way his growls grew sharper each night, made it hard to dismiss. Then the photo vanished. It was a snapshot from our first family vacation. Lucy, 3 years old, cradled in George's arms on a windswept beach, her tiny hands clutching his shirt. It had sat on our living room shelf for years, a talisman of happier days. One morning, it was gone. No one admitted to touching it. Not Lucy, not George, not Sheila. Just an empty space where memory used to be. Sheila's voice was a blade when she called me that afternoon. "He was in your house," she said. "He waited until I was gone." George, ever the rational one, tried to calm her. We talked about getting security cameras, maybe a lock for the gate. But talk is cheap when the sun's still up, and the days slip by without action. I confided in Claudine, a neighbor with kind eyes and a soft voice. She told me David had lost his wife and daughter years ago in a car accident. He'd been different then, warm, generous, The kind of man who'd fix your fence or bring soup when you were sick. Now he was a husk, a shadow moving through a life that no longer fit him. I felt a pang of pity. I told George, asked him not to tell Sheila. Of course he did. The next day, Sheila stood on our lawn, her voice a raw scream that tore through the quiet street. "Stay away from my son's family," she shrieked at David, her fists trembling, her face a mask of rage. He stood on his porch, unmoving, his eyes wide and unblinking like a doll's. The neighbors peeked through curtains, but no one intervened. No one dared. Things spiraled after that. Lucy's school play was the next blow. Sheila and George promised to be there, front row, clapping for our little star. I sat alone in the auditorium, my phone buzzing with unanswered texts. Lucy's smile was forced as she took her bow, her eyes searching the crowd for faces that weren't there. I snapped photos, each one a lie of happiness. When we got home, the front door was ajar. The house was a wound. Shattered porcelain crunched underfoot. Curtains hung in tatters, like flesh torn from bone. The dinner table lay on its side, its legs splayed like a dying animal. Picture frames were gone or crooked, their glass cracked. Rover was missing. George's phone sat on the nightstand, charging, untouched. Sheila's was in the guest room, its screen dark, no blood, no signs of a struggle, just absence. A void where my family used to be. The police came, their faces a blur of pity and procedure. They searched the woods, the ponds, the abandoned buildings nearby. Nothing, not a footprint, not a hair. They asked questions I couldn't answer, their voices soft but heavy, like they were already burying my husband and his mother in their minds. Then they found Rover, 2 hours away, in a field choked with weeds. His collar was still around his neck, but his body was cold, his eyes empty. The officer who told me had a voice like gravel. "You should prepare for the worst," he said, his hand hovering over mine, not quite touching. Lucy and I clung to each other after that, our nights filled with silent tears and questions neither of us dared voice. We left that cursed house, that cursed street, and moved to a beach town far away. The ocean was supposed to heal us, but it only whispered of things lost. Lucy grew taller, quieter. I grew hollow, a shell pretending to be a mother. Years passed, each one a slow bleed. Then I saw the photo. It was a sponsored post, some brand peddling swimwear on cobblestone streets. The influencer's smile was plastic, her eyes hidden behind oversized sunglasses. But in the background, blurred but unmistakable, were George and Sheila. Their faces were serene, their steps unhurried, their hands brushing in a way that felt too intimate, too wrong. They hadn't aged a day. Not a wrinkle, not a gray hair. They looked happy, as if they'd never known me, never known Lucy, never known the life they left behind. I froze. My breath caught in my throat like a trapped animal. Had they planned it? Had they staged the chaos, the broken house, the dead dog, to slip away into some other life? Had David been a convenient scapegoat, a shadow to pin their betrayal on? My mind churned, each question a splinter under my skin. Did George lie in our bed, kiss my forehead, raise our daughter, all while dreaming of escape? Did Sheila whisper plans to him in the dark, Her voice a venomous lullaby? I didn't tell Lucy. I couldn't. Not when her heart was already so fragile. But the nightmare wasn't done with me. Another photo surfaced from the same shoot, a different angle. And there, just beyond Georgia's shoulder, was a girl, 15 years old, her face a mirror of Lucy's, standing at an ice cream cart. She stared into the camera, her eyes cold and knowing, a smile curling her lips like a secret. But Lucy had never been to Europe, not once. And when I showed her the photo, her face went pale, her voice a whisper. "That's not me," she said. "I've never been there." The world tilted. The air grew thick, like it was pressing me down, suffocating me. If that wasn't Lucy, who was it? And if George and Sheila were alive, walking streets I'd never seen, what had they done with my real daughter? Had they taken her, replaced her, left me with a stranger who wore her face? Or was the girl in the photo something else? Something that wasn't my daughter at all, but something wearing her skin, watching me through her eyes. I don't sleep anymore, not really. The house creaks at night, and I swear I hear footsteps, soft and deliberate, just beyond the walls. The ocean outside whispers names I can't unhear. George, Sheila, Lucy, Rover. And sometimes, when the moonlight spills across the floor, I see shapes in the shadows, faces, smiling, waiting. They didn't vanish. They moved, and they're still watching. And that, dear listeners, brings a close to these true stalker stories. Before I go on any further, I would like to thank the rest of the membership of Back to Ashes. Thank you all for your continuous support. As I always like to say, without you, I don't have a voice, and this channel would not exist. If you are a first-time listener and you have enjoyed what you've heard, please leave a like and a comment. If you would like to become part of the Back to Ashes channel, please hit that subscribe button and make sure to turn on that bell notification to all. That way you know every time I upload a video. If you are sleeping, I hope Slumberland is treating you comfortably. If you're awake, I hope you've enjoyed these selections. Until next time, please stay vigilant and take care of yourselves. I'll be reading to you soon. Have yourselves a good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening. Peace, love, and light to you all.